being with us here today. Ms. Baker, I know this question has been asked earlier, but I'd like to re-ask with a little bit different flavor. The Tax Foundation's book minimum tax model estimates that imposing a 15% book minimum tax will increase the tax liability of the Spectrum license owners by $7.2 billion over 10 years. Like many West Virginians, I'm concerned that this tax increase will delay closing the digital divide.
Now, Senator Richard Blumenthal and Chris Murphy said in a joint statement, these payments are possible because the American Rescue Plan cannot come at a better time for families. Back-to-school shopping is always expensive, and with the increased cost of food, gas, and other basic necessities, Connecticut families are feeling the pressure, and we are pleased to see that funding we fought for in Congress delivered to the people who need it the most. Now, Democrat Joe Manchin is the least popular political figure in the new national NBC News poll, with just 11% of registered voters saying they have had positive feelings about the Virginia Democrats. Roughly one-third of voters had negative feelings, making Manchin the unpopular figure in the poll. Manchin also had a share of voters who said they did not know or were not sure how they felt about him. The disdain for Manchin spanned political parties with 40% of Democrats and 31% of Republicans. And there's also huge developments on the new Inflation Reduction Act. Lawmakers are concerned about the current state of the economy. Economists have announced that the Biden administration must take action to avoid a recession. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the most aggressive climate investment ever taken by Congress, could cut the social cost of climate change by up to $1.9 trillion by 2050. The White House has said in an official statement that the legislation will reduce costs related to rising temperatures, minimize property damage from sea level rise and other disasters, and reduce health impacts. The analysis of the Office of Management and Budget, which administers the federal budget, is the first published estimate of avoided climate-related social costs resulting from the legislation. The social cost of carbon is an estimate of the economic cost that would occur from a future level of carbon pollution. And the bill's climate provisions are projected to reduce the country's carbon emissions by roughly 40% by 2030. Early in his presidency, Joe Biden pledged to reduce U.S. emissions from 2005 levels, at least in half by 2030, and achieve net zero emissions by 2050. In the shorter term, the analysis projects the bill will save between roughly $34 billion and $84 billion each year by the end of the decade. Climate-related disasters could cost the U.S. federal budget roughly $2 trillion per year, a 7.1% loss in annual revenue by the end of the century. There are three main ways the bill targets rising prices. First, it plans to reduce the federal deficit, which is the difference between how much the U.S. government spends and how much it takes in taxes and revenue. And when there's less money floating in the economy, there tends to be less demand and fewer price hikes. Second, it will promote the production of certain goods, mainly in renewable energy. Having more supply than demand can help lower some cost over time, he added. Third, and more directly, one provision of the bill will help limit the price growth of certain prescriptions,
as these companies will have fewer dollars to spend on resources to deploy 5G and other spectrum capabilities. Is it your understanding that enacting the 15% minimum tax on book income as written in the tax and spend bill will raise taxes on spectrum license holders, thereby raising prices on already financially strapped consumers?
It is. I'm hopeful for a technical correction so that we can consider spectrum auction holdings the same as other infrastructure holdings.
Along the way, Social Security is still facing a serious problem. Benefits are losing their buying power. Annual COLAs are supposed to help benefits keep up with inflation. Historically, though, they've missed the mark. Despite these annual COLAs, Social Security has lost around 40% of its buying power since 2000. Over the past 12 months alone, inflation has surged 8.5%. And seniors can only receive a 5.9% COLA for this year, meaning retirees have still lost a significant amount of buying power despite a massive benefit increase. And Social Security isn't as reliable as it used to be, and if benefits continue losing buying power, they may even be less dependable in the future. While you can expect to receive larger checks in 2023, and it's wise to be as realistic as possible about how far that money can really go. And also, Biden fulfilled a long-awaited and much-discussed campaign promise, announcing a cancellation of $10,000 in student loan debt for borrowers. It's a move that already led to criticism from Republicans. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell wrote in a statement, "This policy is astonishingly unfair." Biden has repeatedly slammed large corporations for paying little or nothing federal taxes, something he's attempted to change through proposals to raise the corporate tax rate. The relief announcement will impact approximately 43 million borrowers, with 20 million borrowers seeing their full debt forgiven. And Senator Warnock, an advocate for this relief, said easing student debt will provide long-term benefits for hardworking Georgians, as well as in our economy. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom announced that more than half of California's residents may soon receive a stimulus check from the state as part of an inflation relief package worth $17 billion. An estimated 23 million eligible Californians will receive payments totaling up to $1,000. Newsom wrote in a Twitter post that's more money in your pocket to help fill up your gas tank and put food on the table. And also, whether it be for building up savings or early holiday shopping, many people in Illinois will receive extra spending money starting this very month. The Illinois Relief Family Plan. Depending on how your taxes were filed, rebates for up to $300 can find their way to your pocketbooks through separate taxes. And that is individual income tax and a property tax rebate. The Illinois Family Relief Plan became law in April, following the signature of Governor J.B. Pritzker, and individuals several provisions like the recent school tax holiday. The plan was part of the $46 billion state budget approved by the Senate and the House of Representatives. Ongoing tax holidays include a pause on the scheduled gas tax increase, in effect through January 2023. And according to the governor's office, it tops $1.8 billion estimated tax relief through the plan. As early as September 12, money will start being used and issued throughout the state and will continue over several months. The rebates are paid automatically to taxpayers and will be distributed in the same way as the original income tax refunds. However, if a taxpayer did not receive an income tax return, the rebate will be sent via paper check to their most current mailing address. A person filing as single will receive $50 a rebate, and couples will receive $100.
Kentucky update. We had to move it a little bit earlier today, but wanted to make sure we got you as much information as possible. We're going to start with economic development, another good week on announcing new projects and even a pretty big groundbreaking. Then we're going to go to an update on flood recovery in Eastern Kentucky, move to some more awards from the Western Kentucky Safe Fund, helping to rebuild that area, and then a couple of other announcements. But I want to start today with the hope that as we push through these challenges of the present, that there is a brighter future ahead of us. And we see it in job announcements coming every single week, jobs of the future, larger projects than we've ever seen, and then projects spread out all across Kentucky. So it starts today with one of the biggest investments in our state's entire history, marking a major milestone for Bowling Green and solidifying us as the electric vehicle battery production capital of the United States of America. So yesterday, I joined local officials and leaders from Envision AESC.
From Kentucky Reserves, gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to point out, by doubling the size of the IRS, working people of America, 85,000 more families in the state of Texas will face additional audits. These families who make less than $200,000 because of doubling of the IRS. I would like to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from